Xcel's preemptive power shutdown nearly caused a literal show. It could have dumped raw sewage into Boulder Creek. Denver wasn't able to keep its pledge of shelter for people scattered out of a large homeless encampment this week, but then the city came back to offer beds to a select few. A life-saving item that's new to ambulances responding to wrecks on I-70 in the mountains.
It's quite a simple thing to give blood in the field, but it's a big deal to have it and carry it.
And all of Colorado's 14ers are still 14ers. A few of them had been looking questionable. That's tonight on Next. Of all the usual inconveniences and risks that come with power outages, a wave of raw sewage pouring into creeks isn't usually top of mind. But that was the fear when Xcel Energy preemptively shut off power during high winds to prevent wildfires. It's a shame that there's already a TV show called Schitt's Creek, because that's the situation our Marshall Zellinger learned about today.
One of the five senses is certainly heightened at a wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, it's eerily silent when the power is off.
You were thinking sound, right? The Water Resource Recovery Facility in Boulder is one place you do not want total quiet.
We can't treat wastewater without power.
While your toilet may work during a power outage, where that stuff goes, you definitely want electricity.
We were quite concerned, and we did think a spill was about to happen.
Chris Duville is Boulder's Deputy Utilities Operations Director.
This is a normal water level or treatment level for the water.
The level was much higher when Xcel purposefully shut off power on April 6th during high winds.
We initially anticipated we had about 2 hours before we would spill.
Spill onto where we were standing and into the stormwater system.
Sewage of this nature entering Boulder Creek like would have happened, we would consider it a severe public health crisis.
Call it fate or luck, but this third tank was under repair and able to be filled in an emergency, buying enough time for the city to get Xcel to turn power back on.
So we were within 10 or 15 minutes of spilling to Boulder Creek, so it was very close.
Boulder's wastewater facility is powered by 2 substations. If number 1 goes out, the facility can be run by number 2, and vice versa.
We were under the assumption that we'd lose only one power feed because of our arrangement with Xcel.
This is that arrangement, a 2006 agreement between the city of Boulder and Xcel. Boulder paid Xcel $140,000 to install the dual power supply and $1,290 each month. Does the agreement guarantee power even when Xcel intentionally shuts it off? This part says Xcel reserves the right to remove preferred or alternate source from service for emergency situations. The city and Xcel may bicker over the word or.
We do pay an additional fee every month, but yes, we are looking at additional redundancy because we're not 100% sure that we can count on both of those substations going forward.
Boulder Mayor Aaron Brockett will get some immediate answers from Xcel thanks to it being a Thursday night.
Well, they're coming to our council meeting tonight where we'll be able to ask them questions.
The biggest concern for us is we really had no advance warning.
So how did this happen with no advance warning? Both the mayor and the deputy utilities director said the city was in contact with Xcel before the power outage. Then the power still went out. Xcel, in a statement tonight, did not explain any of the back and forth, but said once the lines were back on from one of the substations, Xcel and fire crews patrolled the areas to watch for any fire concerns in the wind, which was the whole purpose that they said they turned it off for.
I think this is all fascinating because it shows all these ripple effects, no pun intended, of what could have happened that you wouldn't necessarily even think of.
Right. And being out there today was like, okay, what does power have to do with the wastewater plant? And we learned just every process. And once the power stops, those tanks are going to go up. And once they overflow into the drain, which goes straight to Boulder Creek, and Lafayette downwind, down creek could pull some of Boulder Creek's water for water usage.
Oh, no.
They were warned ahead of time.
Yeah.
Don't do this. We may have an overflow. They didn't. They did have an overflow in 2013 because of the floods. This is the worst, or as close as it's gotten to that situation since 2013.
Almost had a watch out down below kind of situation. All right, Marshall, thank you. Days after Denver said that city-run temporary housing was too full to take in people displaced by a massive homeless sweep, the city doubled back out to offer shelter to a small group. It's in keeping with Mayor Mike Johnson's campaign pledge that he wanted to move people into shelter with their community groups when there is space. So on Tuesday, the city swept an encampment of nearly 150 people near West 8th and Navajo Streets. It was the first time in 6 months that the city had swept an encampment without offering people a hotel shelter or a micro-community bed. The city said the space was simply too limited. Now, some of the people displaced did not get very far. A smaller group of 30 to 40 people ended up camping a few blocks away. A spokesperson for the mayor's office confirmed what we'd learned, that the city went out to connect them with some limited shelter beds that are available, and they'll begin moving in that smaller group as early as next week. The momentum in Colorado's abortion debate has been on full display today, as abortion rights supporters turned in almost double the number of signatures needed for a ballot measure to put reproductive rights in the state constitution, while an anti-abortion group failed to even turn in any signatures for its proposed abortion ban. Abortion rights groups celebrated today with a rally at the Capitol, said they turned in nearly 240,000 signatures. They're all in support of a ballot initiative that would put the right to an abortion in the state constitution. Secretary of State's office will now verify the signatures. A group opposed to abortion did not turn in any signatures by its deadline today. The group pushing an abortion ban said that it collected tens of thousands. What it needed was more than 100,000. She mentioned Coloradans have not supported any abortion restrictions on the ballot in more than a decade. Opposition has killed off the plan to give the governor control over RTD. The governor is taking the L train after organized backlash from RTD directors, public transit advocates, and city leaders in Denver. This failed transit reform bill would have shrunk RTD's elected board from 15 members down to 5, then given the governor 2 additional appointments. So he'd have serious sway over the board. It was intended to accelerate rail projects preferred by the governor. The critics who ultimately won out said the plan would take power away from RTD's users and the taxpayers who fund that system. The sponsors of the bill say they will continue to pursue other reforms through the bill, but they're going to set aside this whole idea of changing the board and giving the governor a lot of control. The main route, really the only route directly through central Colorado, is closed at the moment, with no clue on when it's going to reopen. Highway 50 west of Gunnison is shut down indefinitely because a bridge isn't safe. It's one of the bridges that cuts over Blue Mesa Reservoir between Gunnison and Montrose. The Gunnison County Sheriff's Office says the bridge failed an inspection and they had no option but to shut down traffic right away. They're now looking at potential alternate routes like mountain roads. With Highway 50 closed, the only highway path to get from Gunnison to Montrose or vice versa is to detour hours north to I-70 in Vail or go hours south to Highway 160 through Pagosa Springs. Paramedics in one county are about to have access to something they've never had before: blood. Now, it's in hospitals, of course, and it's also on emergency helicopters, but ambulances, they typically don't carry blood. Our Evan Krugel shows us why that is such a big deal right up the hill.
There's never a good time or place to have a car crash. But if you need one of these in Clear Creek County, get ready for a long drive to the hospital. Like really, really, really long.
There's really not a lot that we can do. Just get them to a trauma surgeon as fast as possible.
Aaron Crawley says that trip down to Denver can take over an hour before patients finally reach a doctor like Scott Branny.
They're going to be pretty sick by the time they get there, if they get there.
But that is about to change, as paramedics here become the first in Colorado to carry whole blood in their units.
What we're trying to do is provide these patients the opportunity to live long enough to get to the trauma center to have their trauma definitively taken care of. And it works really well for that.
Dr. Branny says getting a critical patient even 1 unit of blood can increase their chances of survival by 50%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's huge.
John Manassian's team will have to keep the blood stored in a cooler at the proper temperature. But he says getting it might be the hardest part of the process.
If we're going to be able to give this life-saving product in the field, we need people to be able to donate that, and that needs to happen continuously. I think it's nice for that to happen, knowing if you're living in Clear Creek County and you're donating blood, that the blood you're donating could be potentially given to somebody in this county to help save a life.
We need people to donate, and it's going to get used. This is not something that goes to waste.
Now, Clear Creek will hold a blood drive next Wednesday up in Georgetown. They need type O universal blood. They do have enough to start carrying it next week, but they're expecting they will need a lot more. Get this, of the 1,800 calls they responded to last year, half of those patients, 900, required a lengthy transport out of Clear Creek County. Kyle.
And just as soon as you're coming on television to tell us that Clear Creek County is first on this, we hear from another county that's like us too soon.
It's the race to get blood on ambulances. Kind of ironic timing. About an hour ago, we received a press release from Colorado Springs Fire saying they're going to start doing this exact same thing. So folks up there saying this is really just the tip of the iceberg. You have a really rural EMS department and a very urban EMS department moving in this direction. They expect this to be a trend in the years to come.
Hopefully a lifesaver. Evan Krugel, thank you. Hey, may I make a recommendation? I want to point you to something that doesn't come from our team, but I think you will really appreciate this. It's very thoughtful reporting from Denver Post health reporter Meg Wingeter. It's the story of Rachel Scanron, who died of a drug overdose in Colorado last year after years of failed attempts to get her help. The story of how Rachel's friends and family and the medical professionals around her tried to get her the treatment she needed. And it is the story of how time after time they were met with roadblocks. Some of them were personal, like Rachel's mental health challenges, and others were systemic, like limited hospital space and long waiting lists for treatment. The article offers real insight into how drug overdose victims can fall through the cracks in Colorado and questions the systems that are supposed to be there to help them. You can find that full article linked on the next social media pages or on the recommendation section of 9news.com.
We knew it should be about 2. Quite a few of the mountains actually dropped by more like 5 feet.
Colorado's 14ers get an up-close inspection from scientists on a mission to correct elevations. And MSU Denver redefines higher education with a cannabis hospitality program. None of Colorado's 14ers got Plutoed. Remember when we did that to the former planet, kicked it out of a club we always thought it had been in? No, all of Colorado's 14,000-foot peaks have passed their inspection, and they're still 14,000-foot peaks. Researchers with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, spent years remapping the height of everything in the state. It's a new measuring system being rolled out nationwide by 2026 that'll use measures of gravity to correct current GPS measurements. In mountainous terrain, that correction could change the official elevation by feet. Scientists tested the new measuring system on Colorado's 14ers, and they say a couple of them dropped by nearly 5 measured feet. That kind of haircut could have knocked Sunshine Peak in the San Juans off the list of 14ers altogether, but Sunshine scraped by. And now Huron Peak takes the bottom spot as the shortest 14er.
And it turns out that not only is Sunshine safe, it's no longer the lowest. It's actually Huron Peak is now just by a few inches lower than Sunshine. But it's still, again, I think something like 5 feet above the threshold. So really nothing was in danger, it turns out, of dropping below 14, which honestly makes me really happy.
Researchers say these new measurements will be especially helpful in flat areas because there, measuring slight changes in elevation will make it easier to predict the flow of water. That'll have a big impact on everything from floodplain management to irrigation to construction. Snow day today. Kathy Sabin's here with a look at that.
April is our second snowiest month, Kyle, with 8.8 inches of snow on average, so it should be no surprise that we're talking about snow during this month when we've already seen our first 80-degree day. But this may be the last pattern that brings measurable snow to Denver as we head into the weekend, because next week it'll be back to warm weather and fire danger. Tonight is freezing drizzle, areas of rain and snow showers. Not enough that it's really impacting travel, but 24 hours from now that might change for you. 36 the high at DIA. 42 downtown, only slightly milder to the south and out across the western slope. A look ahead, we've got chilly conditions between now and Saturday morning. We're tracking a Friday storm that will bring light accumulation to Denver. Seeing some scattered snow showers on the radar at this hour. Again, over some of the higher peaks of Front Range foothills down around Castle Rock, Parker, Monument. We will have cloudy skies tonight and tomorrow. We'll have a return of the rain by this time tomorrow night, mixing with snow, leading to some light accumulation overnight Friday into Saturday morning. And then we'll get some clearing on Saturday before the pattern shift. So in Denver, an inch or two of snow certainly possible. Some of the foothill areas could see over 4 or 5 inches of snow by noon on Saturday. Our high temperature on Friday should be a smidge milder at 51 with scattered rain and snow showers. Again, the main event overnight tomorrow night into Saturday with a high of only 49. Off we go, 68 with sunshine Sunday, 70s until the middle of next week when we could see 80 degrees, and not just on Wednesday, but Thursday too.
It's not just getting high, like we're actually doing something that is elevated and it's a finer experience.
It's a finer experience. Studying cannabis is not just a dorm room activity anymore, it is a classroom activity in Denver. That's next. Tax revenue from marijuana sales is down in Colorado. Cannabis jobs dropping along with it. But MSU Denver is launching 2 new certificate programs, trying to create a pipeline of new employees to help restore Colorado's reputation as the Silicon Valley of cannabis. Our Byron Reed has that.
The chance to give back to your alma mater can come when you least expect it.
Yeah, I graduated in December, so very, very recently.
Luke Mantich is a recent graduate of MSU Denver and working as a bartender for a high-end dining group called The Workbench.
And we do pairings with hash, distillate.
He's back to help give a culinary demonstration about an industry that's looking to grow.
So we're going to put some vapor on top of it.
MSU Denver recently launched 2 new certificate programs that give students a comprehensive view of the cannabis hospitality industry.
I think it's really cool to be a part of an organization that supports changing things and moving forward.
Studies include topics like responsible sale and consumption of cannabis in dispensaries and in food preparation.
The idea that we want to educate our students on how to enter this industry, as well as being in Denver, we knew it was the time to launch these new certificates.
Shannon Donnelly is an associate professor of cannabis at the school, where students can now earn entry-level hospitality manager and hospitality specialist certificates.
Even though there's been a dip here in Colorado, we still are hiring for cannabis employees. So if a student gets one of these certificates, it will help them be more competitive in that job market and also help the industry thrive more because we'll be instilling professional values.
It was an opportunity for Luke to make it back to campus.
I never would have thought that I'd be back at school giving a demonstration, but cool.
And help lift the minds of his former classmates.
It's not just getting high, like we're actually doing something that is elevated and it's a finer experience.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
Takes a year to earn each certificate. Those courses will start in the fall. We return with your feedback next. You get the final word around here as always. Jim in Fort Collins writes in, very good question. He says, what is the current count on the number of 14ers in Colorado? He says, I remember 54, but I think that had recently changed. When I saw your note, Jim, I guessed 57 14ers. So the NOAA folks who did the study with the new measure of elevation, they looked at 58 14,000-foot peaks and said that all 58 are still on the list. Steve says 15 people on the RTD board of directors. I'm guessing those are paid positions. Maybe the governor is on the right idea. Well, I would say our producer Mallory looked this up. They're paid positions. They make $12,000 a year for that work. And SG says the main issue with your show is that it is too short. It needs to be an hour show. I think we're going to need a bigger team.